Welcome back to another episode, guys. As always, we are very proudly sponsored by 502 Media. We have Shay Monique on the podcast today. And if you've never heard of her and you've never heard of the Fat Mermaid Society, I also haven't. So we're going to dive right in and see what all that's about and go from there. Hello, Shay.
Hello. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for coming on. So,
Absolutely.
walk me through your journey of how the Fat Mermaid Society. Well, first off, what is the Fat Mermaid Society, and then how did that all come about?
So, the Society of Fat Mermaids is a size inclusive clothing line and community that celebrates and centers fat folks. And how did it come about? I've loved mermaids my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely growing up, I just turned 40. Growing up, I did not get a lot of representation for mermaids who were like BIPOC and definitely not larger bodied.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I've always been a water baby, spent my summers at the pool, dreaming of being a mermaid, but did not have that representation. Um, Many moons ago, I was in the Capitol Pride Parade, and the theme was "What's Your Fantasy?" And a lot of times, the parade themes didn't speak to me, like superheroes. Like I'm not that brand of nerd, or like there
Mm-hmm.
was just always stuff, and I was like, But when it was "What's Your Fantasy?" and I think also the fact that "What's Your Fantasy?" is a question, my brain immediately gave the answer, and it was mermaid. And I made this little walking tail costume. I do not sew, so I stapled together the most beautiful fabric. Like went and got gorgeous paisley fabric, and then I stapled it. Um,
Whatever
and
works.
made this walking tail costume. And when I was in the parade, I felt like the queen of the parade. Now, this is the Capitol Pride Parade. There were like hundreds, if not thousands, of drag queens in the parade, but I felt like I was the queen of the parade. And it just was so cool. And I was like, I need more of this. And I started fantasizing about like being a professional mermaid. I'd never heard of like a professional mermaid before.
Right.
And I started, looking things up. This was in the like older internet, where searching was a little more, it used to feel like an adventure in a way.
Sure
And
was.
yeah. And I discovered that there were like people were making rubber tails and they cost as much as I made in a month as a nanny, if not more so. And I was like, okay. So I kind of shelved the dream. And then one day, like 10-ish years later, I saw a fat Latino woman in an Ariel shirt. And because my mom tried really hard to get me, like, to protect my self esteem and to give me good representation, like, I didn't get princess stuff because there was no black princess stuff. And I got so excited and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a grown up now and I can buy an Ariel shirt if I want to. And then my brain was like, but it would be really rad if someone who looked more like Ariel wore a shirt with a mermaid that looked more like you. And so that's really where I got the idea to start the Society of Fat Mermaids. And so we were selling t-shirts and leggings. We still do, like small through 5 or 6X, and just with like plus size mermaids. And the brand has like evolved over the years, but that was just the basic conception. And from there, it was like, well, I shouldn't sell to the mer community without being a part of the mer community. So that's when I kind of entered back into mermaiding, which was really cool because I thought I was just going to very casually mer. And I live in the DC area. I live in Northern Virginia, and we have like the best nerd communities ever. I think we have the perfect economy for adults to just like go all in with their hobbies. People tend to have good jobs, they tend to be well educated, they tend to have kids later in life. And so all the money that other people spend on daycare in DC, people are spending it on like Comic Cons and mermaid tails and like whatever. Like if you're decide you're a DJ, they'll buy all the equipment because like people just have kids later. So they just like go all in. And that meant that by this point, time had elapsed because it was probably at least 6, 7 years in between like the Pride Parade. There was a mer community for me to join, which was amazing. And at some point, I also used to do burlesque. And at some point, one of my burly friends asked me to do a snow photo shoot. And snow photo shoots are popular for burlesque performers and mermaids. I don't know. It's like the less clothes a community wears, the more it wants to take pictures in the snow. And I don't know why, but that seems to be the reality. And I was early in my mermaid journey. And so I was like, should I bring my mermaid tail? And my friend was like, yeah. And the picture they took of me went viral. not viral in the way that some of my things have gone as I've like grown, but like we were
Right.
expecting 300 people to see it, like it, comment on it, and instead we got like 3,000. But it was a lot of people. My friend intentionally, like, clearly tagged it as queer, and so there were lots of people who were either fat or black or queer or over 25 commenting on this picture, and it was just this like kind of like mirror moment where it was like they saw a beauty in me that reflected back to them a beauty in themselves. And
Mm.
that's when I realized this fantasy I've had since I was like 4 was liberation work. And so Mermaid Chez Monique's motto is liberation through imagination. And over time, the Society of Fat Mermaids has grown into this really cool community. And so we've gotten to do really neat stuff. Like we have panels at a lot of the mer conventions, but really we just hold space. Like just saying that there is a Society of Fat Mermaids has changed things so much. We've gotten to talk to tail makers about their sizing, whether it's for their tails or their tops. We've been in conversations with even fin makers. And so just the idea that they're like, just the reminder, like, hey, people in bigger bodies exist has like just
Yeah.
opened up so much for the mer community.
Now, kind of a super off topic, but also on topic question. Have you been to the Mermaid Parade in Staten Island yet?
No.
Oh,
So, interestingly enough, that parade, at least the way the timing used to be, it was always the week after Capitol Pride.
oh,
And I just was like dead.
right.
And now, I don't know, the past few years have just been weird.
They
The
have.
Yeah.
Ugh, great.
Yeah. The Afro Mermaid Summit is like the same weekend as the Coney Island Mermaid Parade. And so it's always like, am I going to Miami? Am I going to New York? Also, I've just had some interesting years and haven't been able to travel as much. And I've just been like a little burnt out, like, to be honest. Like, I'm not really doing
Mhm.
podcast interviews right now. Like, I used to do a bunch, and then but then like you were, I just saw you online. It was like Hot Mess Espresso, and I'm like, that's me. I was like, I think that's the one interview I can do while I'm burnt out. Like, and I'm not even gonna lie, I never like did like a deep dive. Like, I was just like that sounds right. But otherwise, I'm like, girl, you're burnt out. You don't need to be out here like talking to
Mhm.
people. Um, but hot mess I am, and so no, I'm not made it to the Coney Island Mermaid Parade. I have gone to the Poseidon Parade though, up in Rockaway,
I don't
which
think
is
I've
like
heard
a
of that one.
smaller one. It's in
Oh, okay.
September.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for correcting me. It's Coney Island, not Staten Island. I'd never heard of this thing until I was watching Mob Wives. Like, God, how old is that show? I know they're doing a reboot and I'm very excited for it. But yeah, like, I know that they had done, that's how I even heard of the parade. And that's how I
Okay.
even knew that like professional mermaiding was a thing. I just thought it was like, to be completely honest, I really thought professional mermaiding was like in a tank at like some sort of circus type traveling thing. I thought it was very small time until I met you, and then I realized like how big of a movement it actually is. And
Yeah.
then that's when that parade made sense. And but it makes sense that post COVID everything's freaking weird and stuff like that. And to kind of um go off of when you were saying burnout with podcasting, like I completely get that. I've done podcast hosting and I've done podcast guesting, and sometimes podcast guesting can be harder in a way because you don't have to come up with the questions and you don't have to keep the conversation going, but you have to be the one talking the whole time,
Right. And I
and
just
it's tiring.
realized like I'm in this like I'm a little bit in a transitional space.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, and I think this is important, like I had to go like, why are you going on these podcasts? And like
Mm.
technically, for the most part, like if you're going on a podcast, that's a marketing activity. But if you're
Yep.
in transition, what are you marketing? Like again, Hot Mess Espresso, I'm like, hey, I'm here, I'm a hot mess.
Right.
I do cool stuff. Check it out. But in general, it's like, why are you putting yourself out there if you're like unclear as to like kind of what facet of yourself you want to be putting out there?
Yeah.
And so it's like it just was like step back until you have a little more clarity. Otherwise you're just like it becomes like a vanity thing. And like
Yes.
that's not really the point. Um well, it is for some people, but like for me right now in this chapter, that's not the point. There might be another era where I'm just like, I just want to go on podcasts because it's fun, because it is fun, and I love like
It is so
meeting
much
people and
fun.
connecting with people, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's cool how different depending on like the podcast you're on. Like I mean, my story is my story, but like different interviewers, hosts are gonna like pull different kind of themes out of the story, and like it's
Yep.
fascinating, but like I need a bigger why at this moment. I mean, vanity and ego is totally fine, but I think even when you're doing it for vanity and ego, to be aware that you're doing it for vanity and ego um, is a thing too. So
I think that's incredibly self-aware, and especially, again, this is a mental health podcast, and being self-aware and transitions and all of those things, that all ties in. So and being aware that it might be more of a vanity thing, and that's why you need to take a step back and find your why, is very rare. Not a lot of people, and I totally understand and relate with that, because HME is in the middle of kind of a transition. And even as a podcast guest, I'm in the middle of a transition, because a lot of what I did originally was all on borderline. And now that I'm so far past that, I'm like, no, I enjoy talking about it, but also like, I don't like going back there as much as I used
yeah,
to. And I still enjoy speaking on it and debunking it and helping people out understand it better. But when you're on it and you're like, yeah, let's go like 10 years back to like pre-diagnosis and have to kind of relive that guilt and stuff like that,
yeah,
it can be a lot. So being aware that you're in a transition, which, can we kind of dive into that transition a little bit on, what your why could be, and, where you want Society of Fat Mermaids to be going, and the direction you yourself want to be heading in?
sure. So
I know it's kind of a loaded question.
no, like I think I know where I want to go with this answer. It's
Yeah.
a lot. So
Lay it on me.
my mermaid journey, it just like Society of Fat
Mm-hmm.
Mermaids was just something that the community needed. And like I said, I thought it was just going to be like, I sell t-shirts, but I'm a quiet member of the community. And I very quickly became like one of the stronger voices in the community, one of like the louder and more respected voices in the community. And that's such an honor. It's also a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Uh, I have this thing, um, I didn't buy the URL and it's okay. But I like joke that like a lot of places, like sometimes I'm for people, I'm the well-spoken token. And I just sit at
Mm.
a lot of intersections, right? I'm fat, I'm black, I got nappy hair, I'm 40, I'm queer, but like I'm married to a dude, so like they can like check off their queer box without it being too radical. Like,
Yeah.
like I just sit at a lot of
Or
intersections.
they try to invalidate it because you are queer but married to a man. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you're just using that for like status and trying to relate." And it's like,
right.
"No."
Right. Which is like also weird because like I try like it's like I want to like it's such a strange balance of like wave the flag so people can feel seen and
Mhm.
heard and safer. But like I don't want to like wave it too hard because like I don't have the struggle that like someone like in a same sex partnership would
Yep.
have. And like it's such a like I feel like a fine dance. Um
Sure is. I'm a bisexual white woman, and again, I don't have a lot of the struggles that minorities, BIPOC, like people in same-sex relationships do. But on the flip side, that biphobia, or that you're not queer enough, is exhausting. I've always kind of joked that definitely being queer or being gay is not a choice, because if I had a choice, I wouldn't be attracted to men, because but we just are. We love who we love. So it's so I can relate to a point with that, where it's like I want to wave the flag and be like, "Hey, bisexual AF," but also like we're only waving it a little bit, because I'm not like super like, I'm not living the life, if that makes any
and
sense.
I totally get it. I totally get it. And I'm also like I'm imagining like the hate comments coming from like this like 2 second conversation. Like cry me a river, you like
I'm waiting for the world's smallest violin from Mr. Krabs over here. Like,
anyways. So Society of Fat Mermaids really took off as a community, not as a business. So that's a thing.
yeah,
But as a
sure is.
community. And really cool things started to happen. Like I had, videos going viral online. And I ended up on being one of the Mers featured in the Netflix series Mer People.
Oh.
And filming with Netflix for a couple years of your life and just all the excitement. Oh, we didn't know it was Netflix.
Ah.
We didn't know it was Netflix.
Mm.
But filming for what might be Netflix for a couple years of your life, and the excitement, the pressure, the build up, the expectation, and then your show launching during the writer strikes, um, and is hard. And so
Mm-hmm.
I took a lot of risks and invested a lot as far as time and just a certain type of vulnerability to be a part of that production,
Mm-hmm.
which was really cool. And somebody asked me the other day, would you do it again? And I would, just because, like, you don't get nothing without trying, if that makes
Right.
sense, you know? Um, but there was a lot of just pouring out that went into being a part of that, and a lot of like intercommunity politics, and a lot of like, it was just a lot. But there was an
Mm-hmm.
expectation when it came out that it was going to be this huge, huge thing. And I'm pretty sure your face was just surprised, like, what? There's a Netflix show about mermaids and you're in
Yeah,
it?
I'm over here
Like, I
like
missed
I'm
I
gonna be
missed that
watching
part of
that.
my guest research. I missed that part of my guest research. What?
Sure did.
Like, and so right, but like, the expectation when it was being put together is that everybody was going to know about this.
Mm.
Everybody might not watch it, but everybody was going to know about it. And it kind of just came out quietly during the writer strikes and was not this life-changing thing in a positive way that was expected. And then I felt really stupid, and I don't like feeling stupid.
Right.
I'm fine, like, embarrassing myself. I've done a lot of goofy things. Like, I'm
Right.
fine. But, like, just like, ooh, you really trusted that this was going to happen. But also, like, the mermaid community that I'm part of was, like, really, really excited about it, most of it. And there's some people who are, like, angry or salty about it for whatever reason,
Mm.
whether it was, like, they're upset that they're not in it, they're upset that their best friend's not in it, whatever. There's, like, a little bit of drama, but there's a lot of excitement. And here I am, like, one of, I think, like, the top 6 people in it, and there's all this excitement. Internally, I'm, like, devastated, but I can't say I'm devastated. And so I have to, like, go out and smile and be gracious and proud and whatever. And it was rough. It was rough. And it took a while for me. So that came out right around the time The Little Mermaid came out. So that came out in May of 23. So about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And it took a while to process through all of that. I mean, it was exciting. It was amazing. It was really cool. And then it was like, oh, I'm not gonna say this did nothing for me, but it didn't do what I thought it was gonna do. And maybe I would have played my cards differently. And maybe I wouldn't have taken that time off work to be at this thing. And maybe I'd have a little less debt right now. And like, maybe,
Yeah. Yep.
um, but all the while, there's all these new people following me and wanting to interact with me. And, they're like, isn't this amazing? And I'm like, yes, it's so amazing. I'm so happy and honored and blessed and grateful. And I am all of those things, but
Yeah.
it was just this like kind of duality, and it was rough.
I don't think we talk enough about how two things can be true. Like,
Mhm.
everyone says it all the time. Oh, two things can be true. We don't actually talk about it, because if
Yeah.
you talk about anything that is even remotely like positive and you're like, hey, but there's also this flip side, you immediately get, well, you should be grateful because, you were one of the top 6 and like there were, do you know how many other people would have loved to take your place? And it's like, no, I understand that. But there's a lot of, like you were saying earlier, that being one of the more main faces of society is, there's a lot of responsibility and pressure and expectation that you didn't exactly like build up to slow enough to kind of like your mindset to go with that. It kind of was like here, and then you're like, oh shit, I gotta catch up.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how were you able to take care of yourself in all of that, especially being more of a figure and almost looked on as like the end all be all kind of thing?
On some level, like I Homer Simpson, right?
Right,
I
like,
was like,
nope.
no. I mean, while things were like at the peak, I was,
Mhm.
you just show up. You smile, you do your
Mm-hmm.
part, you know. But there's a degree to which I Homer Simpson. The summer of 2023, I ran away to Yogaville, which is an ashram in outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. And so I did like a mini Eat, Pray, Love,
Yeah.
and it was so cool to be someplace where nobody knew who I was and
Mm-hmm.
just meditate and do yoga and journal. That was really, really helpful. Um, and just a lot of like soul searching and evaluating, and it's ongoing and kind of reprioritizing, picking up the pieces, licking my wounds,
Mm-hmm.
just, but it's hard, like on any given week, whether or not I identify as like an influencer or content creator varies. Um,
Right.
but
Totally understand
but
that one.
it's a hard thing too, because it's like you just keep making content and
Mm-hmm.
for the camera, and you kind of just like handle your business in the background. And I'm grateful that I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of different people who have known me since before. I have a lot of different people who are like actual mer friends, but I have, people I can just have like real conversations with, people who are not starstruck by me, people who are just like, whatever. But also, if only life would just hand you one dramatic moment at a time,
Be nice.
if only, relatives weren't getting sick, and, like all this other stuff
Right.
wasn't happening at the same time. And so
Yeah.
honestly, if you were to go on the Society of Fat Mermaids Instagram today, you'd be like, oh, they haven't posted since like Black Friday. So like I've definitely have been a little neglectful, and I'm very grateful that the community itself is strong, and I am in the
Mm-hmm.
process of like kind of reconceptualizing like what I want to do with that. And there's a big mermaid convention coming up in April, and it's like, okay, like let's start, actually posting on Instagram and the build up to the convention, and let's use the convention to kind of re-network with our community. And so my like vision for Society of Fat Mermaids, we've never been this, but we've always had like a very vibrant Facebook community, but I want to have an actual paid membership so that we can do things. I'd love us to
Yes.
have like the hospitality suite at the convention where it's like, oh, if you're an SOF member, FM member, you can like come hang out, during this time and this time for like exclusive whatever, and actually be able to plan events because people are thirsty for it. And I naively thought that I was going to be able to sell enough t-shirts to like put on huge events. And um, that did not happen for me. I know it
Yeah.
happens for some people, but it did not happen for me.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, let's figure out some other ways. But I want to do more, again, if that makes sense. But I want to do it a little bit smarter and a little bit more honest, I guess, right? Because I mean, honestly, when you're like promising the world just out of your own pocket or whatever, like that's dishonest.
Yeah.
Like it's not possible. And it's like, but we're a community, and so in order for the community to thrive, the community has to fund it. And excited. I feel like there's a lot of cool things we could do. So that's kind of future for Society of Fat Mermaids, is doing more in the function of being a paid membership. Um, and I am jazzed about that.
Yeah. Taking a little bit more of a serious, more, I guess, controversial turn. Obviously, Society of Fat Mermaids, we have always kind of been a global society that doesn't exactly understand fat acceptance and fat positivity. What are you what are your big things that you really feel like people should know about the fat positive movement and things like that? And when people are like, it's unhealthy, you're glorifying this, da 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 da, you ignore 90% of the hate comments, but the people that are more genuinely concerned, what's your take on that?
Okay. One, I think you said we've always been like globally a little like, you can quite say fat phobic, but like I don't know that that's true, right? Um, I think there's other countries where people just have different body types and it's
Mm-hmm.
regarded differently. I think, you know, as food on some level and body type and like is related to access to food, I mean, there was definitely a time where even in the West, being curvier literally meant you were not just healthy, but also wealthy, right?
You are
And
absolutely
so
correct.
like we've had a flip, like once we got, I think, and I'm not at anything is, right? Like I'm not an
Hmm.
anthropologist, I'm just a mermaid. Like that's my excuse, right?
Right.
I'm always like, I'm just a mermaid. But so I'm thinking probably around like the Industrial Revolution, when food became more readily accessible,
Hmm.
people's bodies started looking different because they could be have more calories in their diet with
Right.
less, more consistently, right? So then being skinny became trendy because, like, on
Hmm.
some level, like, there's a body type that we idolize that's really only accessible to people who have money. You need to be able
Mm.
to like buy the leisure time and probably the trainers and probably the very specialized diets. And so, like,
Yeah.
controlling people's like bodies became like the status symbol. Like
Hmm.
once poor people could be fat, it flipped.
Yeah.
Um
Exactly. Because I've taken a couple art history classes in college, and that was the thing. All of the sculptures were, all of the feminine sculptures and artwork was all voluptuous, large people, and that's what the goal was. So I didn't when I was saying like globally, I meant more like since 2000,
yeah,
especially.
now that's real.
Like
Now that's real.
yeah, because oh god, let's not dive into what the cover of Tiger Beat looked like back then. But yeah, anyways, you were saying.
But I think also obesity is such a weird word. Like most
Right.
like fat activists like hate the word. Again, like I'm not a fat activist, but mostly I'm just a mermaid. Like
Hmm.
it's there's a lot of politic around fatness that I'm less educated on. There's
Right.
incredible books like Sonia Renee Taylor, I think, has a good one. I think it's called something the body. The body is not an apology. There's the whole like reading
Hmm.
list, and it's on my to-do list, but honestly I've just been a person who's always been big and
Hmm.
mostly speak and I guess advocate from my lived experience,
Yeah.
which is great, but like it's also not like I'm not giving you the academic read. I'm just like giving you my read, if that makes sense.
Which is what I
Um,
prefer as a host. I prefer lived experiences, not. I saw this like study back in 2005. Like, no, I want your experience.
Valid, but it's like careful because it's like I don't want to like
Right.
be like the
Hmm.
like party line almost is blah 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 when it's like, look, I just know my
I'm just
story.
here.
I'm just here. I'm just here. I'm just here. But no. So as far as obesity, like it's now made it into all these like medical texts, but our medical system is so jacked up. And yes, there are
Yep.
definitely correlations between body size and certain diseases,
Hmm.
but like the causal relationships just have not been proven in the way that people think they have.
Hmm.
But what we do know is that fat people get horrible medical care. We do know that if you go to the doctor and something's wrong with your knee and you weigh over 200 pounds, they're going to be like, well, you should lose 50 pounds and that'll take some pressure off your knee and then we'll check it out. And the number of horror stories I've heard from people who've been just recommended weight loss and then some of them do lose enough weight to discover, oh, I had cancer this whole time, but nobody would take me seriously.
Yep.
Like medical discrimination against fat folks and then don't have any other intersections is horrible. But for me, my thing is I just want people, whoever you are today, right now, is enough. I don't I didn't start Society of Fat Mermaids to tell people to like gain weight. All our clothes are size inclusive. It's not like we don't even just sell plus sizes. Um, but I created it so people just had a safe space to be and accept themselves. But like, I don't want to use this example, but I will. If
Hmm.
you wanted, let's say I did want to lose 30 pounds or 50, pick an amount. And I was going to
Right.
start working out and whatever. But like, I go to the gym and everybody's looking at me like, ew, who's this like lard butt here? And like, people are videoing me and being like, oh, look at the fat girl at the gym,
Yep.
and like the amount of fat phobia, like we fat shame people so much that people don't want to live. And For some people, that's literal. And for some
Yes.
people, that's like, I'm scared to leave my house because every time I leave my house, somebody says something horrible about me. So it's weird because like the fat shame is so high that it's counterproductive. But the thing is, I don't really believe that anybody who's like, oh, but is it healthy? Like, it doesn't, like, if I'm out here posing on a rock, making a child smile, what does my body size have to do with the conversation? So even the people who, like, I call those people concern trolls because I don't think they're actually concerned because it doesn't actually have anything to do with what's happening in this moment. Now, if I post an Instagram story about my blood pressure, now maybe you can be like, well, girl, I think if you lost some weight, your blood pressure would go down. And we can go back and forth about whether or not that's true and what medical data is or isn't there to back that. Um, but when people just start popping up just on fat people living their lives and saying, well, is that healthy? That's not an actual concern. That's just like, that's kind of like how, what are they saying? What's happening right now? Oh, it's like when people only care about women's rights when they want to be transphobic. You know, like you're just throwing something in there
Thank
way,
you.
as a way to
You
like
didn't care
squeeze,
before. Now we're about the
right.
sports. Like, all right.
So on being fat, like for me, Society of Fat Mermaids just says, whoever you rock, you're good right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not here to tell people what to do with their bodies. That is not at all my job. Again, not a doctor, just a mermaid. But what
Mm-hmm.
I am here to do is make a space where we center larger bodies, where we celebrate them, where people, excuse me, where people may get the opportunity to, you know, have that moment that people had with that those first viral video and be like, whoa, this large body is gorgeous. I have a body like that. Could I be gorgeous? Like, might I be gorgeous? I was just talking to a
Yeah.
friend of mine and she was saying like, I think I'm going to do some more boudoir photos, but you know, I don't like my body right now. And I'm like, that's the exact reason to do the boudoir photos.
Yes.
Don't try to lose the weight and then take the photos. Take the photos today. Fall in love with yourself today. And then whatever you want to do, however you want to live, do it out of love for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not, oh, I hate my body, so I'm going to like try to shrink it. But it's like, oh, I love my body and I want to be strong. And so I'm going to start lifting or climbing or like, this is how I want to live. And so for me, we're just a space that allows people to see people like them living well.
I think, and I'm saying this completely as a, skinny person, but I think you hit it right on the head that it's like losing the weight is not going to make you happier because spoiler alert, the skinny people hate themselves too.
Sometimes I
Like
think it's worse for y'all. Like,
yeah. I think once you hit that like goal, now all of a sudden you get like quadruply scrutinized. And I'm not saying it's worse one way or the other. I'm just saying that like, or you're like, oh, I feel like I gained a little weight. I don't love how much it is. And somebody that's a little bigger is like, oh, well, you're still like a size 2. And it's like, I know, but like my shirt doesn't fit the way I want it to right now. So, but you hit it right on the nail right on the head when you're saying we need to start loving who we are, period. The number on the scale and what we look like has nothing to do with whether we're going to like ourselves or not.
Yeah. And for me, like cultivating a social media feed of people who like look like you thriving and glowing, like
Yes.
that helps you love you because you start loving people like you. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I said I think it's like harder for smaller people is I think it's harder to reject the system, right? Because you're so close.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was pretty young when I was like, okay, dating myself. I already said I'm 40, but it's like I'm never gonna look like Jennifer Aniston. Like there's no amount of weight loss, skin bleaching, haircuts, like it's just not gonna happen. Like I was so far from like the ideal or like the 2000s Britney or whatever. Like it was just like it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to happen. And I think on some level being like super, super far away from the ideal made it easier for me to finally like kind of wake up and reject it and just be like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I look like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just live a life with this body. But I've had friends, like I used to have a neighbor and like, not that any of these individual things are bad, but like she would get her hair blown out twice a week. She was tanning. She was like, her whole life was like trying to fit a mold that like her body just wasn't in. You know, like, and again, like, there's nothing wrong with blowing out, getting your hair blown out or tanning, but it just like, it was just so clear that it was like an obsession to like, try, like, it's like, ooh, I'm like 10 pounds and a haircut off of whatever the target is. And like,
Mhm.
fun fact, the target always moves and bodies always change. But, on some level, I think it's, you get, when you're so close, I feel like it's easier to just get like obsessed.
Yeah.
And so on some level, I think being so far away, like, has helped me just be like, I mean, my body is not fitting the societal target. Let me figure out how to love myself, and go from there, and make how I perceive my value to not be based on my image as much,
Yeah.
and you know, things like that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, especially because things can happen so quickly. I mean, you people look at disabled people a little differently and oh, I could never. And then suddenly you're 19 and you wake up and you're disabled. And guess what?
Right,
You have to deal with it. It's the same with body types. You know, one day you're 18 and like have the perfect body, and then all of a sudden PCOS, hormones, your body changes. You know, you went through some god awful traumatic life things and you gained weight, and suddenly you don't look like you did at 18 anymore. And we just need to start being kinder to each other and kinder to ourselves, because you never know why somebody looks the way that they do. And also, it's not your business why someone looks like the way that they do. Unless you are a close
right.
friend that is genuinely concerned, shut it.
Yeah. And so I do a lot of affirmation work, and like, I feel like
Hmm.
the like core affirmation is I am enough. And
Yes.
I feel like that's so important because I feel like that's a thing that most of us don't actually believe, right? Our capitalist
1000%.
society, like, in order for it to thrive, for like the
Hmm.
type of capitalism we have to thrive, people have to think they're not enough. Like, people have to think whatever we're selling is the thing that's
Yep.
going to save them. Whether it's a haircut, whether it's a new car, whether it's, the house in the right neighborhood that gets your kid in the right school, like, the basis of it all is you're not good
Mm.
enough until you have X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
And I think when we have millions of people walking around thinking that they're not enough, we become cruel to each other. And so I feel like, I don't know, for like the like big global change I want to see, like, we have to believe that like we're enough and we're valuable and that we inherently have worth before we can
Mhm.
like kind of extend that to others. I think that's why you have so many people who are like so cruel. Well, I did blah blah blah. Why can't you do this? Oh, what's wrong with them? And so like all that judgy talk, like, you think you're just judging another person, but it's like, if you can't look at a person and be like, whatever your belief is, whether it's a higher power or science, like, it's not easy to get a person into the world. Like, we're all little miracles or big miracles walking around.
Mhm.
But like, if you don't believe that, if you're like, oh, that junkie over there, and not that that's a whole person with a complex life story who clearly the system failed.
Yep.
Like, if you just believe like, oh, nope, they're messed up, they're flawed, they don't deserve love. And I think it really does start with like believing that you deserve love and more compassion. And there's very few of us walking around where the system hasn't failed us one way or another. And yes, I get that we all have very different privileges, but our system ain't working right now.
Yep.
Maybe never was. Um, and but like, to go, oh, I am enough, and it's not that I need to work or I this much harder to get this thing, da 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 da. It's like, no, like, the world should support the people in it. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
No,
And
I
so that's where I kind of get in
1000%
that,
agree.
like, liberation through imagination. Sometimes we can have easier conversations in the realm of like mermaids and fantasy than we can, or being a little bit more like direct and political. So I try to like sneak my love, my loving leftist views in the
Hey,
in the vein of mermaiding.
look, as long as you're a good person, that's all I necessarily care about. If you care about other people, then we're cool. And I think that's where a lot of us are lacking, is we forgot to care about other people in the
Yeah,
process.
yeah,
And we look, I am the first person to say I can be a little judgmental. I can jump to conclusions. It's human nature to do that. It's what you do with it after the fact. If you can
yeah,
catch yourself and be like, "Ooh, that was a little no, we're going to take a step back. and we're going to look at it all, and we're going to redirect a little,
Yeah.
So to kind of wrap a little bit, what are your hopes? You kind of talked about it a little bit, especially with like your transition and, on what's, what you want SOFM to be. I was like trying to like do the acronym in my head. You kind of talked about but what are your ultimate goals with this society?
With the Society of Fat Mermaids, my goal is just to have a place, like both, I guess, a virtual place and maybe pop up physical places where people can just come, feel safe, feel free to express themselves, and have fun. And really to just celebrate fat folks, continue to advocate for the plus size mermaid community, continue to be, you know, kind of a funnel to like bring people into the mermaid community. Um, I feel like I have kind of like three branches of mermaiding right now.
Yeah.
I'm launching a thing called School for Fish, and with
Ooh.
that, I just want to um it's an online training program for merfolk. So if you're like, "Ooh, I want to get to the mer world," and like you're in Iowa and there's not a big mermaid community, like just you can just hop on schoolforfish.com, like sign up for our online class and meet really, really cool MERS. And one of the things I love about it is that there's so many people who like helped me on my journey who, they're not on Netflix. They don't have, hundreds of thousands of followers but they're brilliant. And I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
here without their advice. And so I've got them helping to teach these classes. And my goal with that is just to like help grow the community that is safe, that is like connected, that's like respectful of the environment, and that just has fun. And then with Mermaid Chez Monique, like I want to do more of that, like really pushing that liberation through imagination. Like, I don't know, I feel like if I can virtually love people hard enough, they'll start loving each other.
I love that. Hey, you got to start somewhere, okay? It's a ripple effect.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of my goals.
Well, I
Grow
mean, yeah,
all the communities.
you already answered my question on if someone wants to get into the mermaiding community and how to do it. So schooloffish.com.
Schoolforfish.com.
School for fish. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
One of these days, my ADHD will not absolutely kill me on remembering things and then repeating them. But also, if there's someone listening that this really resonates, like they're just struggling to love and accept themselves as they are, where do you feel they can start?
Honestly, follow awesome people and unfollow people who make you feel bad about yourself. Whatever that is. Like if it's like the creator and like they do really great recipes, but their kitchen's so perfect, it just makes you like hate yours. Like if it doesn't feel good, unfollow. If it makes you feel good, follow. And I think, find some sort of gentle reframe for yourself, whether it's like, and I don't know why I'm like fixated on kitchens right now, but remember that joke about like the white fridge? Like, oh, if you still have a white fridge, like your house is so dated. And it's like, yeah, well, my white fridge is full of nutritious food or whatever like
Mm-hmm.
your reframe is. I think gentle reframes and just being aware, like, where am I being unnecessarily critical of myself? Where
Ooh.
is like the internet lying to me? Because oh gosh, the internet lies so much. I'll tell y'all, like hot mess
Pinterest,
espresso,
man.
yeah, like you gotta kind of find like the people who are a little rough around the edges that you can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
My office is a hot mess, and there is one corner right here
Mm-hmm.
that's not. But heaven forbid I turn the camera about 2 inches this way or that way. It's all a
Yeah.
lie. Like we're all putting our best foot forward, and I think
Mm-hmm.
remembering that, remembering being gentle to yourself, and yeah, unfollowing whatever that means, things that don't make you feel good. Follow things that do make you feel good. If you want fat mermaids and self-love, follow me, follow Society of Fat Mermaids. But whatever that means, like there's a lot we can't control, but like we can control our feeds, we can control our content. If you want to stop watching TV and read books or whatever, like pay attention to what you feed your brain. I think, yeah, we have a lot more control of that. Like it's a joke, but like I don't get why we do it, because I do get why we do it. But the joke
Right.
about the people with like high anxiety going to bed watching like investigative discovery and like murder mysteries. It's like, well, maybe if you weren't watching murder all the time, you wouldn't think that everybody's about to jump from behind the corner and try to kill you. Like
Probably.
maybe. I have a
Probably.
cousin who's like that. We travel a lot together, and she goes to a lot of the conventions with me, and I'll like get in after a night, and there'll be like murder, and she'll be asleep, and I like put Bluey on. I'm like, okay, I can
Love Bluey.
compromise and keep the TV on, but like I need the TV to be like positive stuff, So
Mhm.
just I think really that being cognizant of what you're feeding your brain and your energy,
Yeah.
even like, okay, this is one that's like really hard for me because I'm pretty good about not reading my comments, but my community will like go in my comments and fight for me. And it's like, don't fight these people for me. They do not
Felt.
care. Like
Yep.
there's so many things, like there's so many better things you can do with your time than defend me. Like I know who I am, and I know that, like I know they're doing it out of love, but like you still are
Right.
then putting your energy like into a fight. So I think also like questioning, like is this productive, right? Like whatever that means.
Yeah.
So there's certain fights you got to fight,
Right.
like I don't know, my family is pretty awesome, so I don't have to have this fight. But like my brother's new partner is non-binary, and like if I got to fight for them in like an interpersonal
Yep.
setting, I will. But I'm not going to
Hmm.
fight for them on the internet just for funsies, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Because like it's not going anywhere. This is just like me being like, oh, you own that guy. And again, sometimes even that fighting is like a weird ego thing.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, but like, and it can make us feel like we've done something revolutionary when we really haven't. Like, it's
Right.
not. So yeah, like is this valuable? Is this productive? But yeah, just be mindful of like how you use your time. Like, what life do you want? And not in this like, ooh, I wish. I don't know. Not like ooh, I wish I was a Kardashian and I looked like this and I drove a car like this or whatever. There are
Mhm.
things I do admire about the Kardashians, and one of them is that they're like very family centered.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, I wish I had more time to spend with my family and the resources to do that with ease. Like that, I do wish. But I don't wish for a particular style of butt lift or lip filler. And I mean, if that's your jam, that's your jam. Like, not
Right.
judging you. But like what are you going after and why, I guess? I don't know.
No,
I hope that made sense.
that makes complete sense. And I mean, I've done the thing, like you were saying, the not like the lip filler, but just like little things to like make me more comfortable with myself. But I've also had a line because I know once I cross that line, like my face will look like a bad 90s facelift real quick. So I've had to learn to be comfortable with the things about my face that I absolutely hate. And it took a while, but we're getting there. And I still have my moments. But again, like what you were saying, the Kardashians, incredibly family oriented. I always joke around that like my family, the difference between me and the Kardashians is they have more money and they have a camera, because that's exactly that like loving dysfunction. That's what happens in my family at times, but they all, they're very family oriented, and I love that. But yeah, I don't have the big house, and honestly, I don't think I'd ever want a big house because then I have to clean that big house, and like I hate cleaning. So
Right.
I totally, what you were saying makes total sense, that in, just being okay with ourselves. And I absolutely love every word that you just said, because a lot of it I had to just take to heart. And I'm going to have to sit down and look in the mirror and like chit chat with myself a little about this because of what you were saying, because I'm realizing where I'm not happy or okay with myself and where I need to kind of tweak some things. So it's that's why I love what I do, because I get a guest on that, I think we're gonna reach to the masses, and just kidding, like we're gonna reach to the masses, but it's also gonna reach to me and make me go,
Yay.
ma'am, we need to take a minute. Like we need
There's
to
a
chit chat with
creator.
ourselves.
There's a woman I
Basically.
actually know and follow, and her name is Ivy Felicia, and she talks a lot about like body neutrality and body peace.
Mm,
Because sometimes people like me will come out too hard and be like, "Love yourself," and it's like, well, what if I can't?
yeah.
And
It's
so
a
I really
journey.
appreciate that Ivy comes out and she's like, "Okay, what if we just start with like, don't hate yourself, accept yourself.
Mhm.
This is myself. I can't change it today. There's certain things about yourself you can change, but a lot of them you can't change right now. And so how do I take
Mhm.
this person who's here today and accept them and be gentle with them, even if I do want to change them, whatever that means. And I really appreciate that perspective, because sometimes I do get a little too hard. I'm like, but you're amazing. Why don't you just love you? And it's like, or like, let's just give you the same grace we'd give a stranger. Like, let's start there, because gosh, can we be hard on ourselves?
We can. And I think especially when you've done the work on yourself to accept yourself, sometimes we forget that journey and that process, because we're like, we're here. Like it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Just love yourself, like do it. And it's like, we sometimes kind of have that slight little bit of amnesia where we're like, hey, remember all those years we didn't? Remember how long it took us to get there?
Yeah.
So there's absolutely nothing wrong with being that like assertive with it. It's just because sometimes I'm just like, just, go to therapy. And it's like, I need to remember how hard it was to actually make that phone call.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
And how the more you need to make that phone call, the harder it is to make it.
Yes. And the harder it is to sit there and go, ooh, I did some shit that I gotta apologize for. And it's a journey. It's a process. And sometimes we just forget it because we're already at that other point.
Right.
So where can we find you on Instagram, especially? Because that's a big one for a lot of people.
I'm Mermaid Shay Monique. So CHEMONIQUE. So Mermaid Shay Monique. The Society of Fat Mermaids is Society of Fat Mermaids. And depending on when this airs, there should be stuff on the School for Fish Instagram, which is School for Fish. It's just there's nothing there right now. But yeah, Mermaid Shay Monique, Society of Fat Mermaids, School for Fish.
I love it.
And spell that FOR.
FOR. Got it. Shay, thank you so much for being so vulnerable and so open, and just being an absolute joy to have on the pod today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, we will catch you next week. And as always, stay hot, stay messy.